Join KFAN's Parker Fox this Thursday night at Freight House in Stillwater. Drop by for live music, great drink specials, and your shot at tons of prizes. Party starts at 5 p.m. Get the full details at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Couple 13, 14 past. I'm Common. He is Tennessee. Hour number 2 begins, as always, with a segment we call 5-3-4.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Brought to you by Willow River Company. Question number 1.
We're gonna win, Twins, we're gonna score.
It's now time to delve deep into Twins territory.
Crack out a home run, shout a hit, hooray! Cheer for the Minnesota Twins today.
Byron Buxton hitting the 2 spot in the lineup last night. The first time since April 5th he has hit anywhere other than leadoff. And he hit a 3-run homer in the Twins' 6-4 win over the Tigers in Detroit. It was Buxton's 20th homer of the season, tied for third most in the majors. Buxton also stole a base. That ties Torrey Hunter for most games in Twins history with 19, with a homer and a stolen base.
Wow.
Common, how many major leaguers are better than Byron Buxton, and will he receive MVP votes this season?
No, he won't. And I just don't think, because generally your MVP doesn't have to come from a team with a winning record or a playoff team, but generally they do, right? When was the last time? I know there have been at least one Super Bowl, if not 2, where the MVP of the game was from the losing team. I think Super Bowl 5, if I'm not mistaken, was Dallas and the Colts. There was a linebacker for the Cowboys. His name was Chuck Howley, I believe. And he won the MVP award. And the Cowboys lost the big game. But you and I have discussed this, that last year and this year, because he's been healthier, Byron Buxton is performing at a level that is what everybody had hoped to see, what had been projected for him, that he would be a 5-tool kind of a guy. Hit for power, hit for average, be able to steal bases, run the bases, play center field at a level that was as good as anybody, if not better than anybody in the league, and had a great arm. And he has all of those tools. But the issue has been he's never stayed healthy, really, other than there was that one year when he played 140, I think it was, another year 100, and then last year was, I don't remember how many games it was. And this year he's missed some games, but it's just too bad that much of his career has been injury-riddled. And it's also too bad he doesn't have some help. We talked about this just the other day, about players that have stayed with the same team forever. He seems not to have any interest. He has said he wants to finish his career as a Minnesota Twin. One of the fears we always have is will Dylan Hughes, no, not Dylan. Is it Dylan Hughes?
For the Wild?
Yeah.
Quinn Hughes.
Quinnesota, that's right.
Yeah.
Will Quinnesota want to stay, or will he want to leave? Well, Justin Jefferson, you brought up the other day, what if all of a sudden Kyler Murray doesn't play very well, and Justin Jefferson has numbers closer to last year than his record-breaking years in his first few years? Well, he want to leave. There's always that fear. Big Meow left. Or not Big Meow, but the kid left. And again, it was kind of a mutual agreement. I think we felt bad that he wasn't getting an opportunity to play for a world title as talent as he is. So that would be but with Buxton, it doesn't seem like he has any interest in that. But was he 10, 11, 12 years into his career now? And it just seems like it's going to be one of those that's, a lot of individual success, and he's helped the team. And they've been to the playoffs, a couple times with him, I guess, or once? I don't know. How many times have they been in the playoffs with Buxton? 2 or 3. What is that?
Bomba Squad year.
Yeah, Bomba Squad, and then last year, or 2 years ago, right? That's it. So, but he's good. Yeah, and do you think he'll get MVP? I guess he might if he keeps.
How many votes does each voter tabulate? Right, like he's not going to get any first place votes, but if they're selecting 5 or maybe select 10, I don't know. He might get some of those bottom end votes.
Yeah. I suppose, yeah.
Question number 2. It's time now to take a look at the loons.
That's really not a look at the loons, but I don't think I have any other soccer opens, so we're going to go with that. But the FIFA World Cup begins today as Mexico will face South Africa in Group A play. That one's about an hour from now. Later tonight, South Korea will take on Czechia. Common, will you watch any of the World Cup?
No. 0. Nil. I'll watch with Deuce. He even asked me. Deuce plays, he's playing rec league soccer. They played last night. They won 1-0. I asked him if he got yellowed. You know how he was written up for his behavior?
Yeah.
For his overzealous celebrations at the Vine Street Fields in Lincoln during flag football. I've asked him, I said, can you get a red or a yellow card? And he said, well, I don't know if I really want to do that. He said 2 guys got yellowed last night.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. 1-0 they won. So Deuce likes soccer. He played soccer for years growing up. And he asked me if we could have a cats in the cradle kind of a moment. Would I be willing to? He said if he can't find any friends to watch, not that I'm his second choice, just that he knows soccer's not my bag. Because if I can't find any friends to watch, would you watch some World Cup soccer with me?
Oh. Is he someone who has to watch TV with somebody?
No,
okay.
He just thought it'd be fun if I would, his father-son bond.
Oh.
And what I did was you pretend you're Deuce and ask me if I can't find anybody. You pretend you're Deuce and ask me.
If you can't find anyone, will you watch some World Cup with me?
That was my reaction.
I always love that.
I said, yeah, I will. It was the same as when baby brother Peter every day would come in with a basketball and he'd look at me with the ball under his arm. And he knows, he didn't have to say anything. Will you come rebound for me out in the driveway? And I would go, and I'd say, not anymore. I'm tired of rebounding. Then, of course, after 3 minutes, I'd go out there into the driveway and rebound. I've said this before. I've got more rebounds than Charles Barkley and Dennis Rodman have combined. That's how many rebounds I did. So I'll watch with Deuce, but otherwise I wouldn't. And this isn't a dislike of soccer. I'm not one of those guys that thinks it's a terrible sport. It's just not my cup of tea. They call it the beautiful game, and it is cool. I mean, it's not always slow and meandering, but it takes time to set up offense and to develop plays. You know, you have long, big looping passes, and this one goes over there. Then you kick it over here, and you dribble a little bit, and so it's okay. I won't say that it's awful to watch, but it's like so many sports. I don't have any interest in the outcome. I don't care if it's Mexico against who.
Today it is Mexico versus South Africa.
I mean, I don't care which team wins. I generally like to have at least some kind of interest in the outcome. Yeah, and I don't have one. But Deuce and I will watch.
What about South Korea versus Czechia tonight?
Well, I'm a big South Korean guy, but I like Czechia. What is it?
Czechia.
Czechia too. United States. Yeah, I'm a red, white, and blue guy. USA, USA, USA. I don't think we're very good at soccer, though, right? In the grand scheme of things,
I don't know where we're at these days. Yeah.
I don't think the men have ever been really. I mean, in all of World Cup soccer, have we gotten out of
the women? The women have been great,
right? But the men, have they ever gotten out of like the first round?
Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. So, but I'll watch a little. I suppose.
By the way, I'm watching Twins Tigers. One of the Tigers just hit a 2-run bomb off of Zebby Matthews to make it 4-0. Okay. But the ball was going like first or second row in the left field stands, and this woman, like those kind of like the rectangular plates that you put popcorn in.
Oh yeah.
They're kind of folded up on all four sides. She held the popcorn thing over her head as if that would like protect her from a baseball.
You're making that up.
No.
Did it hit her?
It did not, but I'm like, I don't think that's going to help you there.
Not going to help.
Question number 3. And now it's time to go In the trenches.
The Chiefs are adding 2 years to Patrick Mahomes' contract and a reworked contract that ties him to Kansas City through 2033 at a value of $504.75 million, a value that makes it the first NFL deal valued at over $500 million. The new money on the deal is worth $239.05 million, with the total value now at $504.75 million through 2026 through 2033, with the first 4 years being guaranteed at signing. All $504.75 million becomes guaranteed through contract mechanisms, and you can technically make up to $522.25 million through incentives and escalators. Common, is Pat Mahomes still worthy of this much money?
That's what I tell people all the time. $503 million is really more like $303 million after taxes. Then I got to be honest with you. He's going to buy a car, buy his mom a house, spend, save, invest, use, flaunt. At the end of the day, this is probably like $50 million a year. Can he make that last? So much of sports is your whole life, just sports. You're getting paid on past performance, not. I mean, I think they anticipate he'll continue to play at the level he has in his first. How many years has Patty been in the league now? Is it going on 10? Has he been there that long?
It's probably around there, yeah.
Probably around 10. So there are always diminishing returns. Now, nobody beats Father Time. You can use that. It seems as though because quarterbacks are so well protected by the rules, and they should be, right? They're the players that make the game exciting. They're the ones, because everybody loves offense. Everybody loves fantasy football, so your quarterbacks are the most important component to that. So they can play longer now, but the older you get, generally you lose a little zip on the fastball. You're just not as good as you were. So how many years is that for?
Well, just adding 2 more years to his already monstrous existing
so it just
deal.
adds 2 more years. So what will that take him out to? How old? My point is
2033.
How old will he be then? 40?
Well, if he is 30 right now, then he'd be around 37.
So maybe, I'm sure at that age he could still be, and he brings a lot to the table.
He's 30 right now.
How many world championships does he have? Is it 3? Has he won 3 or 2?
2 or 3.
I think it's 3. I could be wrong there. And they've lost in the big game before. How many trips? I mean, for what he does, and there's more to it. Andy Reid.
Yeah, he's won 3.
Andy Reid's got a great offensive mind. Defensively, they've had some very good players during his time there, and the offense. But he makes it. He makes the team go. So yeah, I guess he is worth that. I've always said, I know that a lot of times we look at the kind of money athletes make, or actors, or anybody. People that are well paid. You go, is anybody really worth that kind of money? But in sports, like I say, if that's the kind of money that's being generated, well then yeah, because they're watching Pat. They don't tune in to watch Andy Reid. They really don't turn in to watch offensive linemen. So yeah, I mean, I guess if that's the kind of money that can be generated by pro football, then he's worth every penny. Yeah.
And that's it for today's edition of 5 Questions. Well, actually 3 questions, but 5 sounds like more than 4.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. Rosen's about 40 minutes away. More controversial Vikings news on the other side of the break here on the Common Man program on The Fan.
The Common Man.
Metallica.
KFAN welcomes some great shows to the Ledge Amphitheater this year. Can we do it with comedians?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jim Gaffigan.
I just flew in from New York, and my arms aren't tired a bit.
He's there July 19th. John Mulaney.
Raquel Welch. She should be in 3D. 3D, that's my apartment number.
We'll be there August 22nd. Now we're back to bands.
Okay.
And Blues Traveler.
Operator. Would you help me place this call?
And Gin Blossoms.
Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man in the moon.
We'll be there September 12th. Get the complete details on all of our upcoming shows and the concert page at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Ben Stiller, is he related to Jerry Stiller of Stiller and Mears?
That's a son. Or that's a son. Yeah, Jerry's son.
He's been out front and right there in front of the cameras at the courtside for New York Knickerbockers games. As there have been many other celebrities, we've mentioned them. John McEnroe was there. Tay was there with two other singers that I'm not sure who they are, just friends of hers. Larry David is there. Jerry Seinfeld, amongst many others, including Spike Lee. And when I was talking about it with Rosen the other day, he said, "Oh, they pay for their tickets. They got money." And I said, "Well, I'm not necessarily sure of that." And then I used the example, if, let's say, for instance, Tennessee, Anthony Edwards showed up at Ocean Air on a Saturday night at 7 o'clock with a couple of his pals. So they said, "One of you got a table for me?" Do you think they would say, "I'm sorry, Mr. Edwards, but all the tables are taken"?
No, they'd find room.
Not a chance. The maitre d' always has at least one table that's always available in case that happens. They're not going to turn down a well-known celebrity. I don't know. Does Mark Rosen pay for his courtside seats at the Lexus Club? He might. I don't know. What is your guess?
I don't believe that to be the case.
I don't either. Ben Stiller confirmed that celebrities generally do not pay for their courtside seats. He made an appearance on Inside the NBA, had a Game 4. And Charles Barkley asked the lifelong Knicks fan if he is a season ticket holder. Stiller bluntly answered, "I don't have a season ticket. I just get the tickets. The celebrities, the Knicks, just give us the tickets." Then it goes on to say, this revelation didn't come as a total shock to sports reporters, as Madison Square Garden celebrity role famously operates on an unspoken quid pro quo. In exchange for the highly coveted comp seats, stars are expected to participate in promotions, appear on the Jumbotron, and support the organization's charities. However, there are exceptions. For example, die-hard fan Spike Lee is known to actually buy his own tickets so he can express his frustrations with the team freely. So Spike puts his money where his expressions are.
So there's a cost to freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is not free.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's the situation. And I think most people are that. I guess Mark thought maybe they pay for those because they have, and they could afford those tickets. Yeah. Larry David is a wealthy man. He helped develop Seinfeld. He had his own show, Pardon the Interruption. Who knows how many other projects he's been involved in. Jerry Seinfeld was the star. One of the most famous situation comedies of all time. One of the most popular, most successful has got his name on it.
Yeah.
John McEnroe, I don't know. Back when he was playing tennis in the 70s, the purses weren't what they're like now, but my guess is spend, save, invest, flaunt. He's made money. All of those people are wealthy. What kind of money do you think Taylor Swift is worth? I mean, it's billions probably, yeah. So, I guess that's just the way of the world. I mean, gosh, even D-list celebrity like the common man gets a break every now and again. I mean, when I go to Willinger's, they have a parking spot that's reserved for me right up front.
Oh,
that's a pretty nice gig if you can get it, right? So, but it did cause frustration with longtime Knicks, and I understand that too. It's just like it's that old phrase, Tennessee. Well, the rich get richer,
mm-hmm.
And celebrity has its wasn't there some tagline for a credit card company, something like that? Something or other has its privileges or whatever. It's something about having the right credit card. If you've got, I'll never forget her name. She was on Cheers. She was the second bartendress. Sam Malone's, was her name? Not Shelley Long. Who was the one after Shelley Long?
The Kirstie Alley?
Kirstie Alley. I saw her on one of those late night shows one time, and she was telling the story about how her and one of her friends were, I don't know if they were in New York or they wanted to go to Los Angeles. And they couldn't catch a flight, so she just took her American Express Black card and bought a brand new Jeep and just drove across town. So just walked into the dealership and said, here, I want that Jeep right there. Can you have it ready in 10 minutes? And I'm going to drive it to California. And just pull out the American Express Black card, and there you go. So, yeah, there are people that those are celebrity problems. Those are first world problems. And I can understand why think about, we heard the stories of the one I just told, and I don't remember the exact figure. I thought it was something like $11,000 or $20,000. This couple, they're just blue collar folks, but they love their Knickerbockers so much, and they wanted to be in that arena for Game 3 that they plunked down like, I don't know, $11,000, $15,000, $20,000 for a pair of tickets.
Took out a second mortgage?
Yeah, for one game. And so, first of all, the exorbitant prices that they can charge. There's not a celebrity in each one of those front row seats, right? It's not like, how many courtside seats are there at an NBA game? I mean, you got the benches on one side, and there's some sprinkled in there, and then the owner's got his seats. Then the other side of the court, how many seats are there? Do you think the length of a basketball court is at 90 feet? So is that how long it is? I don't recall. But, I mean, how many seats do you think there are? 30 front row seats?
Yeah.
Let's say 30. I didn't see 30 celebrities there, unless there's some D-listers that I just don't recognize. So that means some average, everyday fan had to buy those tickets. But then again, how many of those are average? You probably have Wall Street,
they're very wealthy, yeah.
Private equity guys and all that, where they're worth, they're making millions of dollars a year. So for them, it's like, oh, courtside seat's going to cost me $100,000. No problem. So they just price out. I don't know, what would season ticket holder have to pay for a courtside seat for a year for the New York Knicks? I wonder what that price would be. As a matter of fact, what I can do tend to be is cost of season tickets, court side for Knicks. See what the price is. Regular season courtside season tickets to the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden cost between $160,000 and $250,000 per seat.
Yeah.
So that takes you and me out of the equation.
You think?
It takes most people out of the equation, right? Per game costs generally range from $4,000 to $6,000 per seat, though marquee matchups and playoff runs can push secondary market prices to over $20,000 per game and even more. So there you go. Let's break and come back. More controversial Viking news on the other side of the break. It's the Common Man program along with Tenna B here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Join Nordo and KFAN for Team USA watch party tomorrow night at B52s in Edinburgh Grove Heights. Catch USA versus Paraguay, kicking off at 8 p.m. with games, prizes, and drink specials, all while rooting for the red, white, and blue. We'll see you at B52 Burgers and Brew tomorrow night in Edinburgh Grove Heights.
Nordo and who?
Just Nordo and KFAN.
Oh, KFAN. Because Nordo is funny. I mean, he's not the power trip funny. Nobody is. Yoga Pants Press.
Jim Gaffigan's not power trip funny.
No, absolutely not. Though I do like his a bit. I just flew in from New York. My arms aren't tired a bit. And then my favorite Gaffigan bit is when he goes, at the very end of the show, he goes, I want to thank each and every one of you. And then he starts pointing at everybody in every seat. Thank you, 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 thank you. And then he says, well, excuse me. And then he has that fake arrow through his head. It's just wacky.
I always love that one.
I was going to call him
Then he does like the you might be a redneck jokes.
Yes, yeah. I like that. Those are really good. I was going to refer to him as senior columnist for the Fish Wrap Factory on the West Side, but that would be Patrick Royce. second in seniority, Jim Souhan, wrote a piece today that's it's accurate, but it is sobering if you are a Twins fan. Headline: Twins season looks hopeless. Next season might be canceled. Time to look ahead to 2028? Question mark. That sub-headline, or whatever they call it in the writing business, says rebuilding is a nice word for losing a lot. The Twins can't develop young players because those players are injured. And they do have a number of young players that the franchise has high hopes for, and they tout them publicly. They're selling hope. I get that. That's what all sports teams do. We've talked about that before, Tenneby. My theory is that that's really what sports does, is franchises sell hope. You hope you have a good free agency period. You hope you have a good draft. You hope the players you trade for help the team. You hope you have good OTAs. We do football. You hope OTAs go well. You
hope firing the coach will change the entire team around.
Yeah, getting a new GM and then firing some front office people. They sell hope. And, it's, Souhan wrote at the beginning of the year. He didn't make any bold predictions. I don't think any beat writer or any member of the media or even any fan suggested or thought that the Twins would be a contender. And Tom Pohlad did. He runs the joint over at 600 First Avenue, or as we like to call it, the goose that laid the golden egg. He thought they would contend. We're finding out that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. Souhan writes, this team was not built to win, and it is fulfilling expectations. The Twins are 7 games under 500. They got here via the usual routes: key injuries, veteran failures, youthful immaturity, and a low payroll that exasperates all of this franchise's mistakes and flaws. I love baseball and ballparks, so I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from attending games or following the team. I'm just dealing with reality. And if you'll remember, that was part of his preseason thoughts were, hey, you can still go to the ballpark and watch people develop if you want to do that. There's still that part of baseball, and you could say that really about any sport. Let's say you have a high, now right now the Wild they're a really good hockey team. They're one of the top 5, top 10 team in the NHL with a bright future. There was a time they weren't like all teams. And so if you really like a sport and you're really into it, hey, you might want to go and say, hey, I'm still going to go to the games because I enjoy the atmosphere. And heck, we got some young players that, right now they're rookies today, but they might be future stars some other time. And you go to games. I'd stated at the time, let's go with Royce Lewis. I don't know if I want to pay those ticket prices and those concession prices in the parking to watch Royce Lewis go 0 for 4. I just don't know if I want to do that. I'd rather watch it on TV. And Jim writes, this Twins rebuilding project might not crystallize until 2028, if then. The season looks hopeless and might not be a season in 2027 as owners correctly push for a salary cap and a floor. And by 2028, the Twins' current batch of young players might be ready to compete in the majors, with the words might be providing the key to the franchise's future. And that's what I've always said. We hear so much. We heard about how great that we had after the fire sale last year, when I think we traded 11 players. And we got a whole host of young talent, young players that had promising futures, at least on the surface, right? Hey, they're really good. They played well in ponies and peewees and little league, and they were good high school players, college, whatever, and they've had some success in the minor leagues, and they might be future stars for the team, but none of that is guaranteed. I mean, for every player that makes it, how many don't? Says the biggest problem facing the 2026 Twins team is that they aren't even getting a chance to develop many of their best young players because of injuries. And the young players they are trying to develop are either failing, slumping, or revealing their limitations. And that's what I've said all along, is that it's the Larnacks and who are the other ones, the names that I can never remember anymore. And the reason you can't remember their names anymore is because they did.
Brooks Lees.
Yeah, and these players that they've just never panned out. They've had flashes. Yeah, there you go. They've had flashes, and they still could develop. Sometimes it takes a guy several years to really get things figured out. The Twins are certainly hoping that with Royce Lewis. He burst onto the scene. Remember, he had like 5 grand slams and 3 at-bats, which is impossible to do, yet he did it. He looked like a superstar in the making, and now he has 2 of the 30 longest slumps in Twins history. They just sent him to the minors. He gets to the minors and he tears the cover off the ball. And then my ball guy, Secretary of Nightlife, says, he played college baseball for John Anderson. He was the leadoff hitter and center fielder for the Golden Gophers. And he said he's watching Lewis, and he says he really hasn't learned anything. He watched him the first couple of games after he came back to the big club, and the pitchers know how to work him. They throw that off-speed stuff, and then he just kind of throws the bat out at it, right? So whatever.
Hit a bomb last night.
Did he?
Yeah.
There's such a big difference between minor league pitching and big league pitching. It's night and day, right? And he hit it. Yeah, you just mentioned he hit a bomb last night, and a guy with that much talent, you would think will eventually figure it out. But we don't know, and that's why these other players that aren't even as highly regarded as Royce Lewis, what chance do they have? The final paragraph says, this is why rebuilding while playing in a beautiful ballpark after having raised expectations is problematic. Rebuilding can take years. Fans might spend those years learning they can find hobbies other than watching baseball in downtown Minneapolis. And that's really sobering, especially coming from Jim, who is a baseball guy, admittedly. And that is the problem. The team is, not only are they spinning their wheels, they're really going in reverse. They finally had that nice stretch in the 2000s, right? Remember that? When the Torrey Huntersies, who else is a part of those teams? And didn't we win like 8 division titles in 10 years, or 6 and 10, or whatever?
The Dyers and the Mordells and Bowers.
Yeah, right. And the Lirianos is of the world, and
Santana's.
Yeah, the team competed. They never had enough to get over. They always faced the dastardly Yankees, right? They just were, our record against the Yankees in postseason is just abysmal, right? But yet, was it 3 years or 4 years ago, whatever it was now, we finally were that 0 for 18 streak. It was the worst postseason losing streak of any North American men's major 4 sports. 18 in a row, they finally snapped that. Not only did they win a game, they won a series, and then we know, right-sizing the payroll and then the fire sale. And so it's like, not only were you starting to gain some momentum and some traction, then it went backwards, and then this year isn't helping at all. Yeah, the new guy running the place, I don't know if they call him general manager, head of baseball. He's owner. I mean, he's one of the owners, Tom. He was, all I can say is he was a little delusional. He thought the team would compete. He was just taken aback. We discussed this yesterday. He couldn't believe that odds makers had them, over-under was like 70-some games. He thought they would compete. This text message came into the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line that says, the Twins are 4th in the AL in runs per game. They're not a good team, but they do have some competent hitters. Just don't ask me about the pitching. They have some competent hitters, yeah, I guess. Being 4th in the AL in runs per game, I'd have to see what those numbers are. We know the AL is really down, right? The American League records, everybody's kind of just shuffling along at about 500. So is it because they have really good hitters, or is it just because the American League is just kind of meh? I don't know. I'm not paying as close attention to Major League Baseball in general, and specifically the American League, and even more specifically the American League Central. But I know the other day we talked about a game in which the Twins had 4 at-bats with the bases loaded and struck out 3 times. That's not the definition of competent hitting. You have to have clutch hitting too.
I'm not saying that you can't take something out of runs per game, because I think you definitely can. Mm-hmm. But sometimes some of those stats can be deceiving too, right? I mean,
yes.
If you're trailing 10-1 in a game and score some garbage runs in the 8th or 9th inning. Well, that looks great for your runs per game, but your offense never really gave you a chance in that game.
And then if you're playing another team that's even hard to believe, that's even worse than you are, their pitching staff, they're on, you're facing their 5th starter and he's not any good and you knock him around a little bit too. Here's a text message that says, do you think there'll be a baseball strike or a lockout? I think it's a lockout. I think that's what I've been reading, is that's what the owners will lock them out rather than the players go on strike. You know what the players say absolutely positively they do not want, if I read it correctly, is they really don't want a salary cap. They like it the way it is. And, that makes sense, because if you have a salary cap, that does put a cap on how much each player can earn. You can give the Ohtanis and the Judges of the world as much as you want, and there's still plenty left over for the other players, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a good quality player, you're a good veteran player, even a younger player that you're good, you got a place in the everyday lineup. Well, you don't mind if your deal is 5 years at $12 million a year or whatever. You like that. That's good money for you. And you don't care if Ohtani's making, $50 million a year, whatever these outrageous numbers are. I don't know what they are year by year. As long as there's still plenty more left over for you. What we see, what happens in the salary cap leagues is it does keep it competitive, right? I mean, teams don't, like in the NBA, you don't want to get into that what do they call it? Apron, the second apron. You don't want that luxury tax. I mean, you'll do everything you can do. That's why the Wolves felt like they had to part ways with Bodega Cat. We talked about this earlier, too. San Antonio is young and hip now and with it and wow as they are. They're going to have to pay all these guys money eventually, and they're not going to be able to afford. They have bona fide young kids that are already really good players and probably future stars. Harper. Is it Vassell? Then there's Castle. Bassel, Rathbone, former actor. Wembenyama. I mean, they've got Champagny. Well, you're gonna have to pay all those guys eventually. So it's so there probably won't be everybody that follows the game, including what Jim just wrote here. There's not going to be a season next year. Major League Baseball will not have a season next year as both sides dig in their heels. Oh, KOC, let's see what he has to say. Sure.
I know minicamp is mandatory, but when you have the same group here for the better part of all of your OTAs and Phase 1 and Phase 2, with all the things these guys have going on, it is really, really cool to have the participation level, the buy-in, the hunger to continue to raise the foundation of where what's been built by our players here, but ultimately where we want to go as a team. So compliments to those guys. I think they're ready for training camp. I think they're ready to pick up right where we left off as we kind of fully enter the competition phase of being able to build our team and kind of chase what our ceiling is going to be for the season. As far as the quarterbacks, I thought those guys, once again, both of them, and really, all four of those guys, but really JJ and Kyler both had really good days. Again, still plenty of opportunities to learn. Flo's guys are giving us great looks. Our defense is playing fast, humming around mid-season form in a lot of ways, which shows just what those guys are able to do over there, even with a lot of young players on that side of the ball. But excited about both where both those guys are at. Looking forward to them, using the time from now until we report back to continue to kind of build on what they've really accomplished, which is a lot. Both those guys, have done some really, really good things, and I think they're elevating our football team because of it. So excited to get back when we get a chance to get going in training camp. But I'll open it up to you guys.
Is there any worry that Kyler brought it up yesterday that whoever ends up as QB1 will be missing out on some reps, or is that just a necessary evil in the competition?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if it was more about hearing kind of the full quote. I know what he was intending. It was very similar to conversations we've had privately and even as a group, with me in the quarterback room a little bit more. I would say this, this phase, this time of year, based by the rules and also how we handle it, it is a foundation. to build off of, and every rep obviously matters, but this time of year, the beauty of not going full speed on a lot of reps is you can get a lot out of watching other guys' reps as well. So I think that's taken place. I think there's been great learning that's taken place, but those guys both know we have a plan in place to make sure that the decision we make that is going to be about what's best for the Minnesota Vikings, and the timeline of that does involve making sure we get our starter ready to go. And, we want to make sure by the time we play the Green Bay Packers that there's been ample time to, have, the best possible offense we can have to help our football team, and the quarterback's going to play a big role in that. So that was, that's kind of where we're at right now as far as like the timeline goes. I think to give an actual date would be not necessarily accurate from a portrayal of how we see it, but there is a timeline to make sure that we can allow the competition to continue and advance and really lay out a training camp that will allow us to do that, but also make a timely decision, knowing that through all of this, not just those two, but Carson's had a really good spring and Max has come along, and those guys are getting really minimal reps. So even though those guys are splitting those reps, they're splitting a lot of reps because, Carson obviously where he's at in his career is capable of, applying a lot of things to our offense without a ton of reps, and Max is getting a lot of the development work that, quite honestly, as an undrafted guy last year who we absolutely love, wish we could have, had a little bit maybe slower timeline than needing to play all three of those guys last year.
3 points that when training camp starts, the early part of camp, it will be similar to what we're seeing out here, just from our point of view in terms of reps and
just with the different volumes of days. Like some days will be those classic 2.5 hour, there'll be massive amounts of work where maybe it could be split, but I wouldn't read much into who gets what on which days. I know me saying that was the waste of the time that I took to say it, but I will say that we're going to put together a way where we can, the different aspects of situational football that they need to get. The call-up periods will obviously be massive periods where they don't necessarily know what's coming, because that's what football is. And that's the challenge for, Kyler to get to a place where that comfort level is there, and more so, even to the other question, just what I think Kyler was speaking about was just being a little uncomfortable, which I don't want to speak for you guys, but a lot of the real growth we've all probably had in life comes in those uncomfortable times where you work through it and you find a way out the other side, and you're that much better off for it. And I know that's Kyler's mentality towards it. And, much like JJ's early time here, he's using his experience in the system in a really good way. But at the same time, he's still applying some really detailed things that I think he's done a really good job of from the time the season ended till now. So it is very competitive. It is, like I said, making our team better. I think our players are seeing that every single day with how even these days went, and I'm sure they'll feel that early on. But ultimately, what's best for the Minnesota Vikings is going to be the direction we go to win football games and move the ball and score points.
What have you seen with Kyler the most growth, whether it's like verbiage or read progression, like some of those specifics? What has stood out the most?
Yeah, I think all of it. The one thing about these times, and really training camp in many ways can be difficult as well, because you're systematically installing things. But just because you installed something in the first day doesn't mean you don't run it again. So you're really layering the learning for these guys, and you try to put it together in a way where everything kind of fits like a puzzle piece. But sometimes, especially against the defense we play against every day, there is an element of, we've got to really expand to not let them limit our volume of kind of how we're playing. So I think he's handled that well. But there's always a point where, you can feel that overflow start to happen, and then you acknowledge where that point is, and then you figure out a way, really, in many ways, it's going to be Kyler over the summer really diving back into things and making sure by the time we come back, and he's learning. The beauty of it is it's not going to be the first time he's learning the majority of the things that we're doing, but he's made a ton of really, really impressive throws. He's layered the football, he's drove it down the field, he's checked the ball down to avoid sacks and things that are really positive for the position. And we really haven't even really been able to see his true athleticism impact the position either. So I'd say he's improved massively, calling plays and just running the show, and it will only continue to get better as both those guys continue to push to help make our team better.
Talk about having a date in mind. Is that to pick a starter in your mind, or just to separate one guy to go to more first-team reps?
I think that's a great question, because I think it could be, I think as transparent as I can possibly be, I think that question, or which question you're answering, answers itself. Sometimes it might be, this is the guy and we're going full send. Sometimes it might be there's been some separation and we want to maybe use another phase or a joint practice or two, or even a preseason game or two to try to, help finish that, so that the question ultimately is, who is the starter? But like I said, part of this with the limited time you do have is, you've got to put it together in a way that challenges those guys and see who responds, see who handles adversity well, and ultimately see who elevates the offense. And regardless of what we've been this year's version of the offense, because it's going to look different. At times we're going to do some different things, and that player that elevates the group as a whole is going to be the guy that's under center against the Green Bay Packers.
Do you foresee both of them playing in the preseason then, Kevin, or are you probably going to have a decision by that time?
Once again, kind of goes hand in hand. I see both of them playing. In regards to, who plays first and all those things, or what we've, communicated. I will say this, the communication is going to be paramount from me to you guys and ultimately our fan base. You guys are the extension that helps us communicate with our fans. There's not going to be any, I don't really see any competitive reasons. This isn't a game week where we may be trying to, not disclose things. I think this is going to be, training camp's open. It's an open competition. And I want to see these guys in a very, very unique and in many ways difficult circumstance elevate themselves in their games to help the Minnesota Vikings.
Wes talked a little bit yesterday about it's kind of an upward arrow for JJ.
Yeah.
Where have you seen that show up, or what's been your assessment of him throughout the offseason?
I think it's been physical with his fundamentals and the way he's really tried to apply the different types of throws. He now has the experience, and when you're not talking about hypotheticals anymore, he can learn plays based upon reps. In many ways, he's seeing himself up on the board when either myself or Wes are installing those plays, and then he knows he's worked on a lot of those throws and the rhythm and the timing and the trajectory of those throws. Then he gets to come out and practice them, and then he gets to go into at least the 7-on-7s and compete and try to apply those things. And you guys have probably seen it. I know you're not out here every day, but you guys have seen him, make some of those throws, and it's just been fun to watch him just totally dive in to an individual improvement plan for the betterment of the group, and vice versa with Kyler coming into a brand new offense, totally different than what he's been a part of, and him be comfortable being uncomfortable and pushing through and continuing to grow in his own lane of what this is, because they're not two players that have both been in our system for 3 years. They're at different points of their career. All that applies, but at the same time, it's ultimately a very simple answer in the end. What's best for the Minnesota Vikings to win games and activate, the really good players we have around them in that offensive huddle.
I'm feeling uncomfortable because I have to use the restroom. So let's take a break. When we come back, the legendary Mark Rosen will join us. One more hour to go. It's the Common Man program. Soon to be joined by Mark Rosen, Tennessee, and the Common Man right here on the Common Man program on the Fan.